Hey Matt, I thought I'd do a quick video because sending messages can be tedious, and it's always nice to sort of see what the other person's like on the other end. So I'll give you a bit of a backstory. I came to faith in 2018. I was 39 at the time, had lived a fairly secular life, enjoyed the good stuff that the world has to give. I want to caveat that I am by no means a good Christian. I fail every day, and I'm not saying that to sound pious or anything like that. Like I've got my sins that I'm dealing with, and try and get through that, like we all are. But what happened was, when I came to faith, I also changed careers, and I got into software coming out of financial services. And so one of the things, and I'm actually impressed that you actually read my history and the LinkedIn. A lot of people don't do that, and I know that you're in BD, so you would do that, right? So I've been in BD, so a lot of people don't understand the skills. What happened after a 10-year period in SaaS, I ended up working for a company in 2021, 2022, I think it was, Movable Inc. And the guy that hired me was a Christian. And at the time, I was still putting a lot of Christians up on pedestals, like, men in business, and thought, oh, it's amazing, amazing, amazing. Anyway, I got let go in a very unchristianly kind of a way, and it left a really bad taste in my mouth, and I got pretty angry. What pursued after that was just a couple of false starts here and there with a couple of different roles, and one of them was an IT services agency. The guy that hired me was a very good salesperson. I've got nothing against him, but like he was just a jerk that was a manager. And so I quit 5 months into it, and the CEO was shocked, and I just told him what had happened, and I just said, look, I'm just not going to put up with this anymore, and I'm at a certain age, etc. So from that, I took 6 months off, and I just spent time with my kids, and it was great. Like, the big decisions were like, what are we going to eat today? Where are we going to go? And my kids are like 3 and 2 at the time, so it was great. It was a great time. But it was very stressful. It was very stressful because obviously we need money, and we got by through God's grace, and we had savings and stuff like that. And I then took up another gig 6 months later with a creative digital agency, and I'd never worked in proper advertising before. I'd worked in SaaS, but not in advertising, and that was an exceptionally liberal and woke company, but all the people were like really lovely, so I've got nothing bad to say about them. What had happened was, leading from that time when I was working as a dad, when I was being full-time parenting, and leading up to the next agency that I was working on, about to start, I've been doing this writing course, and I was posting every day. I wasn't creating images and content the way that I am now. You'll see that there's this line, and that line took place around about like April, May, maybe 2024. And that's obviously with GPTs and diffusion models and stuff like that. And I was working at my positioning, and because like everyone says, like, I help this and I help that, and you're obviously a little bit older. That's just garbage. To me, it's just garbage. It's like, so what I did was I put down 3 things that I thought that encapsulated who I was, and that was Christian, husband, father. And I was really scared. I was really nervous about the whole thing, and I didn't know how people would take it, because at the time, all this weird stuff was happening in the US around, like woke and liberalism and all, and it's kind of changing now, but I was just nervous because I thought, oh, if I do that, will people like not look at me for a job interview? Will they not look at me at hiring? All that sort of stuff. And I just did it, and the last part of like what I said was just what I do, and that constantly changes. I'm constantly working on my positioning and my messaging. Around about that time, like in the past, so what you see on my screen is like there's like images of like old posts that I've done, like this is what it used to look like, and I used to do these. And just over time, I just started to meet more Christians here and there on LinkedIn, and some would have stuff in their bio, some would say stuff. And I think it was this post here that I saw. There was somebody that had written, they'd said something along the lines of, never forget, never be afraid to try anything new. Remember, the amateurs built the Ark, professionals built the Titanic. And I was really, really inspired, and I made a decision that I would try and do like a biblical post here and there. And then eventually what happened was I started doing it every Sunday, just one post. And then that worked out to be a bit of a strategy for me, because 6 days of the week I'm working and I'm posting stuff, and on the Sunday I'd do a biblical post. And the biblical posts were easier because I would try and strip down as much copy as possible, and it would just be about the scripture. And you can see here, like I've got like branding and all sorts of stuff here, and these are all on Sundays. But then eventually what I did was I just removed all of that branding, and it just became a place of joy that I didn't have to try and write like fancy copy and be smart and clever and stuff. And now it was more about just like, how do I articulate the word with some beautiful imagery or something to encapsulate that? And you know, with anything, it just becomes easier and easier. So like, you know, today's one or last night's one was this. And what happens is that I listen to, at my church, the Bridge Church in Australia, 𝗄𝗶𝘁𝗵𝗁, we do a live stream. If I can't get to the service, or if I'm doing something and I'm not attending the service, I get to re-watch the service, and then I think about it, and I put something together. And so here we were talking about, or my pastor Paul Dale was talking about, being content, and Philippians was being referenced, and so I use that, and then I link it to the church stream. And the funny thing is that I have been speaking to my church about, like, you know, getting a presence on LinkedIn, just because I think that we need to be where, you know, men are. And I came to faith at 39, so for me, you know, I spend an inordinate amount of time on LinkedIn, and when somebody comes to faith, especially in their older years or their middle period of their life, it's an exceptionally discreet exercise that actually takes place, in the same way that social selling is. So I said, we just need to be there, and don't expect virality and heaps of likes and all that stuff. That's not how social works, and it's not how social works when you're trying to sell to your ICP and they're trying to gather information, which is what I do. So yeah, and so for me, this has been an exercise in creativity, but also now using my current set of skills in the third phase of my career. So yeah, that's it. Happy to jump on a call and have a chat. Thanks for reaching out and connecting. Yeah, have a great day. God bless.